Hey guys, welcome to another video by Overbite Gaming. I am the Magnificent Snare, and that is Beaky Snare.
So Magnificent Snare and Beaky Snare. Beardy fucking bald guy.
Yes, my head is upside down, fuck off.
Well, I'm wearing a cap because I couldn't be able to do anything with my short hair.
Whereas,
Anywho, today's video, we wanted to have a bit of a discussion about devs, publishers, and that kind of other end of video gaming, and sort of kind of what's fucking going wrong with everything at the moment.
well, why? It's like you get a developer or a publisher come out and be a complete twat, and you can see a public backlash against them and how it affects their business, and then you get another dev or publisher do the exact same thing, and you're like, do you not read news? Do you not see what happens when you do things like this?
Well, I think what it comes down to is that there's different drivers for these different elements, and I think before we get stuck into anything...
Greed!
Yes, greed is definitely a factor. But before we get stuck into things, most devs and dev teams are, I would think, a majority of them will not be the problem area here. They're the guys doing the grunt work in the crunch periods, you know, doing what they can with what they've got.
Unless they're self-publishing or basically the publisher anyway.
Yes. So it's, for me, it's always focused more so on the publisher or the company that's only there to make money than actually do anything, any sort of creative vision. So while we're kind of talking about, you know, what's wrong with devs or what's wrong with publishers, it's that other end of video games that we as a consumer shouldn't really care about. It's like editing on a decent video. Not that we do that.
I was going to say, what's that? I'm not familiar with this.
So, some of our previous skits have had a good bit of editing in them, but what I mean is, good editing is something you should never notice. And
like him blowing his own trumpet there.
but publishers, you know, they are not even a necessary evil anymore, but they are in the landscape. And
well, they are for a
the
necessary
big ones.
evil before your company becomes big enough to self-publish.
Well, I don't even think that's the case anymore. There's a lot of companies that are doing quite well on their own.
This is true, but you really need to hit. You can't just like put out okay stuff. You have to have a big hit, and that sort of drives you.
Yeah, but that's like any company or any successful venture, isn't it? So I think some of the problems that we do see in gaming these days, it's the money over satisfaction kind of angle that we get a lot from publishers. Microtransactions, obviously, and loot boxes, and all the monetary focus that these companies put onto games as a vehicle to make money, rather than producing something that people then, you know, either will grow up with and love, or have nostalgic memories about, like we did with games back in the old days, where you could buy for like £2 from the shop.
Yep. News agents, in fact, there'd be like a little display stand when you go and get your papers. You're like, oh, I'll get a game as well.
Yeah. So all of that was kind of like, that was necessary back then to actually distribute stuff out. But these days, with the digital platforms like Steam, you know, where indie games are rife, you know, you can produce something and send it out. It's not to say some of the shite that's out there that we've covered on our Underbite series.
No, but I mean, if they release a shite game, they release a shite game. I mean, as long as it's not obscuring good games, then I don't see a problem with them having shitty games on there, personally.
No, I think it's just the fact that they got the refund option, so you can get your money back. It's not a problem. But my big issue is the greed. It's the greed of, you know, AAA games are too expensive to make now. It's like, well, they're not. If you make a good one, it's just that your risk tolerance is way out of whack. So if you're going to take a chance on a new creative IP, then you have to know what you're doing. You can't just rinse and repeat an existing format of something. Or in fact, you can, and then make money from it.
Well, that's part of the problem. It's like, all we're getting is remasters and sequels and stuff like that. And when you do get a new property like Anthem, for instance, it's rushed out the door to make money as quickly as possible.
But that's an interesting case, because Anthem was a problem both on the developer side, not the development teams, but the management of those development teams, and the publisher, who were, you know, not quite working together as well in their vision that they should have been doing, and ended up with a rushed article that was just not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for it to improve. I actually went back, reinstalled it, and tried it again, and it's worse. It actually now sets my GPU and CPU at 100% usage, and It gives me massive frame drops all over the place, no matter how low the settings are. And I wasn't able to fix it, so I uninstalled it again. I'm like, better luck next time.
There was just nothing to do, and it was broken, and it was rushed, and it had great mechanic ideas in it with the flying around and Iron Man styly.
Yeah, but the story is just rubbish. It's just an excuse to have a live service game. It's like, oh, here are these storms that you need to fix, and it's like a raid in Warcraft or whatever they're called in Destiny. You know, it's.
But do you think that it would actually be a better reception if they came out and said, "Look, guys, we fucked up here"?
Yeah, they're not going to do that though.
No, but do you think you'd actually look on it kinda?
If they fixed it as well, I mean, you had Hello Games, which
For example, yeah.
I've just actually played No Man's Sky last night. It's in a far better place now. They've actually introduced everything they said they would, but they didn't really, at least initially, ever apologise because they just went radio silent.
Yeah, and I think they've acknowledged the fact that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's the difference. You know, that's a small company that's gone, okay, we need to sort this out. We need to make it right. As opposed to a company like EA and BioWare, who have gone, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, this is brilliant games. It's going to change the landscape. It's going to be amazing. All the PR bollocks, and then not done anything.
Or Activision Blizzard, who will apologise for doing something.
Or not at all.
Or what? A apology for doing something, and then come back and do very similar shit.
Again and again and again.
Yeah, and just send that long-haired mushti that I did a rather amusing skit on to come out, say some placating words, not really apologise, and then just back to business.
Yeah, and the problem is that we have companies like Blizzard and Bethesda. They had a lot of free passes back in the day.
Well, not so much Blizzard. Blizzard usually put out a good product.
Yeah,
Back
they were
in the
solid.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever a Blizzard came out, it was a big thing. I remember when StarCraft 2 launched, it was like, whoa.
And then Diablo 3 came out.
Yeah, Diablo 3 that was a problem with it being online mainly. Certainly when on launch, no one could fucking log into it. That was a rather large problem.
Was it Error 34 or something it's called?
Yeah, I was actually tweeting Mike Jevons, another YouTuber, and we're like, "Is up yet? No. You? No." Just sat there refreshing, trying to play. I think I got in at about 10:30. I'm like, "I got fucking work tomorrow, man."
Yeah, I didn't actually get onto it on that day. I didn't have a PC at that point.
He had a Mac because he's stupid.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that is the case. But yeah, I mean, those kind of days of Bethesda launching Skyrim and it being a buggy mess, but everyone was happy with it because it was a good effort at doing that RPG. I mean, it's the baseline now for any RPG of that ilk.
Yeah, I mean, you look back and you think, why were we happy with it, man? Why? I mean,
because it was a grandiose thing. It was the equivalent that Hello Games was trying to do. It's like, look what you can do, look at the potential, look at this, you can buy into this experience and be completely immersed in this environment. And then with Hello Games, with No Man's Sky, it just didn't work out that way. It was contrived, it was basic, it wasn't ready.
No, if they released it in the state that it is today,
yeah, people were screaming 9 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly, because it is a very good game now.
Yeah,
no bones about it.
So ignore our reviews.
Well, not our second one. Perhaps.
Yeah, our re-review.
A re-review, our first re-review. See, that's exactly the evidence about what we're meaning here. That's the only game we've ever re-reviewed. Because it just changed so drastically, our first review was no longer relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem we've got with companies these days is where the focus is no longer about creating good games, it's creating money and worth for shareholders. That's always going to be a problem, and it's always going to be the driving force for the decisions they make. Now, if you guys have a campaign against a particular game that's come out that's not to your satisfaction, or if, like Anthem, that's absolutely terrible and you might have bought into it, maybe even as a Kickstarter or something like that you've put money into and pledged to help this game become a reality, and then that's then not happened, you're going to be fucked off and you're going to be wanting the money back, or wanting to see the game you've paid for. However, to a company making money, they've got your money, so unless you do actually refund it, that's the only way it's going to hurt them, because their shareholders just care about the value.
Well, to be fair, if you refund on Steam, they have to pay back Steam as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they still have to give Steam the money that Steam lost on that sale. So they are actually down.
Good. But this is the point. This is what's very, very important about these scenarios, that if you're dealing with a smaller company, then it's more likely they'll care about, and be passionate about the game they're putting out.
Well, they have to, because
Yeah.
they can't get the reputation of just slinging out shit.
No. But a bigger studio, which would then be like carted off to do something else, that's done. Like that, unless it's in the schedule, it's not going to happen.
Well, it's not just that, but you get entities like EA that have so much money coming in from other revenue sources, like the FIFA Ultimate Team, which pretty much earns all of their revenue. The other games don't really.
Was it something like £30 billion a year or something stupid?
Ridiculous. So on the other side, where they're doing new properties and things, do they really give a shit about it? Can they just throw out shit and say, hey, we're still a games publisher?
And let's not forget the activities of companies like EA, who buy up a studio like Visceral and then shut them down.
Or buy a studio and then make them do stuff they're not comfortable doing. Like Doggy.
Doggy?
Style.
Okay. But they're making them do stuff they're not comfortable doing, and then they shut them down, and then we lose somebody that would be very, very keen to do more of the same stuff they were good at.
Yeah.
I mean, those dev teams and those developers themselves may have gone into other particular companies and they've used their expertise there. We might not even be aware of that. But, companies like Hello Games, focusing on No Man's Sky, Digital Extremes, focusing on Warframe, they are...
There it is.
Yeah, of course.
There's your one per list.
Yeah. But it's those companies are focused on that particular game, and however well or poorly they do that, they are focused on producing that game. They're focused on keeping that alive, keeping that relevant, and keeping it enjoyable. Listening to fans, they are listening to the feedback they're getting. Bigger companies don't seem to do that. I know it's maybe a long video just to say that point, but we need to support the little guys more to have that creative difference or creative chance for new experiences in games, rather than just rehashing the remasters and the sequels and the IPs are already established, because they are cheaper to make stuff for. Let's be honest. And if it is a good IP, you want more of it. I get that.
Yeah.
But we need to support the little guys too, because they're the ones that will respond back to you with, you give them cash, they're going to give you time, passion, and experience.
Yeah, like we got a thank you, didn't we, for playing Bob is Hungry from the guy that did that.
Yeah, Meatball Game, it was quite fun, to be fair, for what it was.
Except the control instructions were slightly wrong.
Yeah. But the indie developers, looking up stuff, people playing their games, it's really nice to have that interaction. So let's start a campaign. Let's start a campaign to support the little guys.
Yeah, I think half the problem is when you get a big publisher like EA saying buying a studio like BioWare, for instance, and they say, okay, you used to do this type of game, we want you to do this type of game, but also we want you to use our proprietary engine to do it, something you've got no experience in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, why would you do that? Because you're fucking yourself twice. And also, that does sound fun, I'll give you that, but not in this context.
Yeah, you wouldn't get somebody who's well known for coding a sports game to do a RPG.
Well, I think we've had examples of that, and yeah, it bears out the theory.
But this is my point. It's horses for courses. People are good at certain things, and you can't realistically turn around and say, "Oh, well, that's why it's failed." It's people at the top making those decisions, which you generally don't get in a smaller company. You get more of a vision, and there's less links between the person with the vision and the people doing the work. And I think that's probably an important part of it as well.
Yeah.
So go and support the little guys. All
support the little guys and support the big guys as well that are doing you right, such as CD Projekt.
Yeah.
Because they are now a legit big guy. I think you were telling me the other day.
Second biggest in Europe.
Second biggest developer in Europe. Very fair with the DLC. We've always said that. Like Witcher 3, you had 3 DLC.
Fairly harsh on the crunch periods.
Very harsh on the crunch periods, yes. But I've also heard from other CD Projekt Red ex-employees that said it was fine.
Maybe it just depends.
I think.
But, they've only released the game every 4 or 5 years.
I think it just comes. It's not. This isn't a great statement because it shouldn't work this way. But it's just where they've been in the development game for so many years and worked in other companies, and it's always had that crunch period that they're just inured to it and used to it and expect that.
Mm.
It's not a great situation, but to them it's just, well, this is what we do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but they are, the games that come out from them are inspired, they are reliable, and 2077 Cyberpunk game is going to be sexy.
And like EA, they have other revenue streams, but they don't let that compromise the quality of their games. Like they have GOG, don't they? They run that.
All right, they actually run GOG.
Yeah, they run GOG.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so you're buying games on that, you're giving money to CD Projekt Red.
So let us know down in the comments what you think about the whole publisher-developer thing. I've seen a lot of reactions on previous videos that I made about the state of gaming industry and stuff on our channel, where people are saying, yeah, my childhood is being eroded away from, all the companies money grabbing us all the time. It's reducing their enjoyment of games. So let us know what you think down in the comments.
Yeah, but also, having said all of this, you need to also support the companies that you perceive as bad when they do something right, because that sends a message. Like, if they put out a shit game that's rushed, buggy, unplayable, whatever, people will initially buy that, but then the next time a game comes out, they're going to be like, don't really want to get one like that again. So they don't seem to understand that. But when they do something right, like I will specifically say EA and Fallen Order. Fallen Order is a fantastic game. It is exactly a game we've been asking from them for years. And it's sold like gangbusters. So that sends them the message. Okay, we need to put out a complete game that gives the people what they want and not what is going to fill our pockets. And because EA have FIFA, for better or worse, they're in a position where they don't need to worry about that end of it so much. So they can throw out the odd bone. Just make sure you say, this bone is what we like, and you'll get more bones.
Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2. Brilliant observation. Very good game. Wasn't marketed. Came out in a really bad period.
Yeah, against a lot of other things that were just overshadowing it. So it's stuff like that where we can hopefully do our part in kind of highlighting those games as and when we become aware of them. I mean, for example, the one that's coming up or coming out this year, holiday season this year, which could go either way at this point, is the Outriders.
Yeah, I saw your video.
And this is a game from Square Enix, I think, who
historically have not done well.
No, they've not done well, but it might be a game that's a complete carbon copy of Destiny.
And didn't they do that deaf game or something? It was like a fighting game where you're deaf. It had FMV in it. Oh, there's a slight trickle of memory going on there.
Yeah, I remember a game around someone being deaf, but I'm not sure it was a beat 'em up.
And apparently it was awful.
Yeah. But a game like Outriders, where it could be a carbon copy of Destiny, or it could be something interesting and different. And some of the people who have actually played it have said, "Oh, it looks quite fun. I might have to pick it up." So I'll do a review on it, or we'll do a review on it when it comes out.
Well, that's the thing. You either need to have that USP, or it needs to do what it does extremely well. And we're just not seeing either both sides of the coin or either side of the coin sometimes. Like Anthem, the original spec for Anthem sounded really interesting. What we got wasn't interesting, and it didn't work very well.
And like Destiny 1, the story, sounded good on paper and very, very interesting.
And then you discovered you actually had to read it on paper or phone.
The grimoire.
The grimoire.
But yeah, that's what we think about sort of the state of publishers and devs in today's society. And this is 2020, February 2020. Who knows what's going to happen? We were discussing briefly what we think the next big thing in games is going to be, maybe for another video. But certainly for the publishers and the way the industry is going, we have to be very careful we don't have a crash, because the confidence in these big companies will just erode and be like, well, why are we paying £60 a year for the same thing? FIFA.
Yeah.
Slight tweaks. Whereas you could be investing in having brilliant experiences with people who know what they're doing, launching some really interesting creative IPs that aren't just made to be a franchise. They're just single games that was really good. Leaving people wanting more and driving that creativity.
Yeah, I think it comes down to vote with your wallet, guys. if you don't want a crappy studio to put out crappy things, don't buy their crappy things. It's like the huge pushback Call of Duty 2, I think it was 2 maybe, it was Modern Warfare 2 I think it was, and basically because they'd like removed their sort of servers and it would have to be like peer-to-peer and people were pissed off about it, and there were groups on Steam and one of the groups was like against don't play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and there's this legendary screenshot where it has a list of members and they're all playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So vote with your wallet, guys. Don't be that lad that opens his mouth and then doesn't back it up. Come on.
But yeah, that's our video on talking about that stuff today. That was fun, wasn't it?
It was super fun. I enjoyed it.
So we have videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday, so check back then for some awesome content, and like and subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yes, and if you do subscribe, ring the bell, and then we'll interrupt you while you're trying to do important things.
Oh shit.
That's important.
Yeah.
I learned that the other week when it didn't happen.
Yeah, you're like, where's my poo? Yeah, on that note, take care, guys.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye.